Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief, otherwise known as the Grand Poobah. That's right. So tonight is Thursday, May 21st, 2020. This is episode 490 of The Daily Dope. So, do want to point out, if this is the first time you've popped in to check out the show, it's very, very casual. This is not rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Just kind of hang out talking about tabletop gaming news. Sometimes we'll talk about PC games, which I have a little bit of PC game news tonight. But for the most part, a little pop culture sometimes, but really, it's all tabletop gaming news around here. So, do want to mention that. Of course, if you happen to like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. If you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that notification bell, because it will not only let you know when the Daily Dope streams live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube. It will also notify you when I upload my standalone videos as well. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Anyway, tonight I am going to share my interview that I had earlier today. In fact, it was kind of funny. It was early morning for me, but I think it was like later afternoon for Tomas Herenstam from Free League Publishing. So we did talk about loads and loads of cool stuff that is on the horizon from Free League. But before I jump into that, I do want to point out, because this is a live stream, chat is available. It's on YouTube. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to chat. So if you'd like to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question or a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. I will be hanging out during the video of the interview as well. So I know sometimes when I share interviews, we get a little chat going back and forth with some of the visitors, some of the viewers as well. But there is one news piece I do want to share because it's a pretty big news piece. It is the latest free PC game from the Epic Games Store. Yes, this week is a big one. Last week was a big one too. It was Grand Theft Auto 5 from Rockstar Games. Well, this week it happens to be Civilization 6. That's right, Civilization 6. This is an awesome game. I love the Civ games. I've been playing Civ games since Civ 1. So Civilization 6 is available as a free download from the Epic Games Store, courtesy of Firaxis Games and 2K. Do want to mention, though, it is for a short time. It is only through the 27th. So if you are interested in picking up Civilization 6, this is the core game. It does not include any of the expansions, but even the core game's pretty sweet, especially after they did a few tweaks with some patches over the past few years. This isn't a really old game either. This is from 2016. So pretty sweet. And it still sells really well. It still sells for $60. So essentially, you can get a $60 PC game absolutely free over at the Epic Games Store through May 27th. All right, enough of that. Let's jump on in. Because as I mentioned, I had an opportunity to talk with Tomas. I keep messing up his last name. I know. I believe it's Herenstam. Hey, I treat English as if it's a second language. Everybody knows that. Anyway, but we did get to talk about Free League Publishing and a lot of goodies that are on the horizon. So sit back, get ready. We're going to talk about the One Ring, the Twilight 2000 Kickstarter that's going to come this summer is when it'll hit. We talk about Tales from the Loop starter set, the Alien RPG starter set, and a whole lot more. So it's about 30 minutes. Kick back, enjoy my interview with Tomas. Tomas Herenstam is joining me from Free League Publishing, and I know I butchered your last name there, so I'll just apologize right up front.
No problem.
But thank you so much for taking some time out today. It's morning for me. It is midday, I believe, for yourself, and we have a lot to talk about from Free League Publishing because there is loads and loads and loads out there for us to chat about. So first off, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And how are things going so far with shelter? Well, I guess you're sheltering in place like some of us are here. So you're working from home?
Yeah, we have been, all of us at Free League are working from home. We have been for the last, well, what is it now? I lose track, 2 months?
Yeah, 3 years?
Yeah.
It feels like a long time.
But we're pushing on. We're still working. So we have a lot. We're keeping really busy. All projects are still running, but yeah, we're just doing stuff more remotely now than we used to. So,
speaking about being really busy, there is tons on the horizon from Free League Publishing. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you today, because there is so much really exciting RPG gaming goodness that's coming from Free League Publishing. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about what's pretty much the closest on the horizon. I know this is supposed to release pretty shortly, and that is the Tales from the Loop starter set. So, Tomas, tell me a little bit about what's in the starter set. What can people expect? Maybe if they already have Tales from the Loop, should they be picking up the starter set? So, where would you like to start off?
Yeah, I mean, it's we've been planning on doing starter sets for a bunch of our games. I guess we'll get to that too. And
Sure.
Tales from the Loop seemed like the perfect one to start with. It's a good game for shorter games, one-shots. You can do campaigns, but it works really well in the smaller format.
Mm-hmm.
So we figured just to create that perfect starting point, a place to begin. So this starter set contains condensed rules, all the rules you need to play, pre-generated characters, a brand new mystery or a scenario to play. That is unique and new for this starter set. And so it's really all you need to get playing within minutes. And it's being released now. We had a bit of a delay because of pandemic reasons, shipping, things like that. But now it's being shipped out, and it's going to land in stores soon as well, I hope.
And of course, you had the Amazon television series as well. So yeah. I would think there's some built-in advertising right there.
Yeah, that kind of affected the timing of this thing. I mean, the core game has been out for about 3 years now. So we've been doing a lot of work with it, and we figured this would be a chance to reach maybe a new audience, reach more people with some help from the TV series and this starter set as well.
Is there anything on the horizon for either the core Tales from the Loop or Things from the Flood?
Yeah, we are working on a couple of things. I mean, it's Tales is like the main road, the main fork, so to speak.
Right.
And Things, it's a standalone game. It's a complete game, but it's a bit more of a side off.
It's darker too. It's a bit darker than Tales from the Loop.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a darker tone, so it's a bit of a different thing. I think primarily we do have a campaign that we're working on for a campaign book for Tales from the Loop by a guy called Oz Mills. And we don't have a date for that, but it's pretty much written. So that's in the works. I wouldn't want to promise any timeline for that. So, but that's like the next thing up. Another thing I should mention for the game in general is that we're also working on, we haven't announced this anywhere, but we're doing an official Roll20 module for Tales from the Loop.
Very nice.
Yeah, so we've in this time. I mean, there's something we've been wanting to do anyway. But I think just this situation kind of pushed us to actually move forward with that. So hopefully that should be up and running and available very soon. Hopefully within a few weeks. That's our hope. So we've been working hard on that just to make it easier for people to play online, and that's going to be, we're going to do this for other games as well going forward. Alien and the others also. Tales will just be the first one out.
Fantastic. I have to say personally, I had never ever played role-playing games remotely until this.
Right.
Now every Sunday I run something for my friends and my family, and it's all remote. So good to hear that that's going to be coming to Roll20. Now, you had just mentioned Alien, so let's kind of segue into that, because that is another starter set that is on the horizon. That the core game itself, I have to ask, did that sell out? Because I have found it's very hard to track down.
Yeah, it did sell out. The first batch sold out really quickly. It was almost gone by the release day, almost. At least at the first batch that went out to stores, when that was out, we had hardly anything left. Mm-hmm. So we did a reprint pretty quickly, and that reprint has arrived. I think it arrived right before the pandemic hit, so around March, February, March, it arrived to the US. And I think it has made its way out to stores, but because of the situation, I don't know the details of which stores have actually managed to get a hold of it. But I know our Impressions, which is the consolidator for distribution that we work with in the States, I believe they still have some stock, but it's been selling quickly and it's running out quickly. So we're probably looking at a second reprint for the core book in the near future.
Cool. Because I have had people actually ask, because I host a live show Monday through Thursday nights, and I've had people ask in chat, hey, what's going on with the Alien RPG? I can't find it anywhere. And I tell them, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if it's sold out, because it was probably one of the hottest role-playing game releases. So good to hear that at least some distributors, some stores should still have it, and there is another print run on the horizon.
And I think we still have in our store in the UK, so it's available in the web shop. Shipping is not super fast these days, but you can get it that way as well. So if you find it nowhere else, you can check in with our web shop too.
And it's available in PDF. Yes, I tell people all the time, Drive-Thru RPG or the Freya Lagan website, you can get the PDF. But let's talk a little bit about the starter set, because the Alien role-playing game, from my understanding, I have not actually seen it, but this is also another game that works very well as a one-shot, as a cinematic role-playing game, as well as shorter campaigns. So is that what the starter set is going to kind of focus on? Is it going to be a cinematic scenario that's included in it, or a short campaign?
Yeah, like you said, it's the Alien game. We have kind of two modes: the cinematic mode and the campaign mode. Mm-hmm. And for the cinematic mode, it works really well in a short format, because generally, not all characters are expected to survive, and it's kind of an intense thing, and it works well in a short format. And yes, the starter set will be geared towards cinematic play. We actually had planned to release a campaign book for campaign play at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So that both are focused on colonial marines, like you see in Aliens, the second movie.
Right.
Now, we didn't manage to actually finish the campaign book in time exactly, so we had to push that up a little bit. So that's coming too, but later in the year. So that's for campaign play. But the starter set is focused on cinematic play, and we're also releasing a new cinematic scenario around the same time. They're both coming out in August. So the starter set contains one cinematic scenario, and then we're releasing another, actually a boxed set for the second cinematic scenario.
That's right. I forgot about that. Let's talk a little bit about that boxed set for that scenario.
Right. That's the second box set, the new one. It's called Destroyer of Worlds, and it's kind of a continuation or a sequel to Chariot of the Gods that was included. That was published separately, and that's also now included in the starter set. So it has that same format. But what we wanted to do is not just publish a scenario in just a book. because we feel that it helps a lot to have like nice maps, handouts, pre-made character sheets, even cards for personal agendas and other stuff. So we are actually packaging the scenario in a boxed set.
Very cool. And that's scheduled for an August release as well, if I remember correctly.
Correct. And you could play the Destroyer Worlds, that scenario, with the core rulebook or the starter set. So you don't actually need the core rulebook to play the cinematics. You only need the starter set to play those. If you just want to focus on cinematic play, you can actually manage without the core rulebook.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Very cool. Speaking of box scenarios, why don't we move on to something that I'm pretty excited about, and that is the Forbidden Lands, the Bitter Reach box set, because the Forbidden Lands was one of my top 3 role-playing games releases of 2018. I think that was just a really fantastically done product. What's cooking with the Bitter Reach? Aren't we going to experience like a frozen northern area of the game world? Is that what's kind of going on?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, Forbidden Lands is very much a map-based game. I mean, it's got that hex crawl. So basically, what the Bitter Reach does is that it expands the world. In the core set, the base game, you get a big map of the Forbidden Lands, or Ravenland, it's called. And the Bitter Reach expands this with another map of the same size, but up north. It's like beyond the mountain range in the north. So you basically get a whole new world, or a big region to explore. And this region is to the north, and it's a cold, icy, snowy area that you'll be able to discover the secrets hidden under the ice and all kinds of stuff. And just like the core game and the Raven's Purge campaign goes along with that, this is a modular campaign where there's a backstory, there is a meta plot, there is key players doing stuff in the background, but the players will be able to explore this world and the setting and explore the secrets of the backstory the way they want to. So it's not a linear campaign, but very much an open world sandbox experience.
And that's one of the aspects I found pretty fascinating about Forbidden Lands overall, is that on one hand, it does incorporate a lot of, I don't want to say mechanics, but a lot of the inspiration of old school revival role playing, and then ties that together with some very, very modern sandbox approaches to role-playing games as well. So it's really a standout product, in my opinion. And when people ask me, well, what kind of old school Renaissance game should I pick up? I tell them, well, if you don't necessarily need to have that D&D experience, definitely check out Forbidden Lands.
Yeah, I mean, that's great to hear. I mean, that's really what we aim for, to get that old school feel, but not necessarily the old school mechanics. So that's kind of where we wanted to infuse like our take on sandbox role playing and a more maybe modern rules set with those old school aesthetics, and kind of mash them up. That's really the whole idea behind Forbidden Lands.
Sweet. All right. Well, speaking of old school aesthetics, although I got to say the game mechanics aren't necessarily the traditional old school, you're going to kickstart a new edition of the classic GDW role-playing game, Twilight 2000. This was a fairly recent news announcement, and that is going to be coming. And I know a lot of people are going to be very, very interested with that, because I believe you're working with Mark Miller from GDW fame. Are you working at all with Frank Chadwick? Because I know Twilight 2000 was his baby too.
Yeah, no, not really. Our partner in this is Mark Miller, so it's okay. I guess that's a matter of how they work and on their side. But it's Mark has been our partner in this. So
let's talk a little bit about that, because I do understand. And I might be wrong. I mean, it could be completely wrong. But you're going to use the same kind of setting as previously, although tweaked a little bit. I believe that we're not going to see the fall of the Soviet Union. Well, the coup actually in 91, I think, actually succeeds. And that's kind of the background of this story, what leads up to the Armageddon in 2000. But you're going to use the Year Zero engine, am I correct?
Yes, that's true, or a version of it. I mean, the Year Zero engine games, which is almost all of our games now, they use, we work a lot with the rules, so they're quite different. I mean, Alien is quite different from Forbidden Lands and even more different from Tales from the Loop, even though they do share some core things like how to roll dice.
Right.
And a couple of things. So yes, and Twilight 2000, the new version, will also use a modified version of the Year Zero engine, but we're actually looking into deviating a little bit more than we normally do. So we might even move away from the dice pool system for Twilight 2000. But we're actually trying out two different systems now, one dice pool based and one that is not. And we haven't actually decided. We're playtesting both just to see which one feels, both work. It's just a matter of what captures the Twilight 2000 feel the best.
Right, because Twilight 2000 had a very gritty, realistic approach to modern combat. That's for certain. One thing that I am curious, and I have had people ask me, so I'm just gonna ask you, Tomas, is I have heard from some folks who are very excited about the prospect of Twilight 2000, but they're kind of surprised that it's still going to be set in the year 2000. A lot of people are kind of curious, why weren't you doing something that's going to be like, say, Twilight 2030 or something like that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and we got it a few times, and obviously this is something we thought about going into this project.
Sure.
I think, there are pros and cons for both. I think what kind of tilted us towards it's an alternate history edition or an alternate history version of the setting. I think it's that trying to go near future, like something that's going to happen in the next 10 years or something like that.
Right.
Those kinds of settings, they tend to age really fast. Just that a year or two passes and those ideas you thought about what was going to happen in the future just feel really off, because the world is changing so quickly that trying to just predict what's going to happen in the next decade, even in a game setting, it's hard to do. And the other reason that's connected to that is that it can also be, to be perfectly honest, that the setting can be very politicized, and that's also a reason that we wanted to veer away a little bit away from that.
Right.
Twilight 2000 will have that anyway to some extent, but we wouldn't want to go into it. I mean, there's just a lot of, more trouble. You can get into all kinds of discussions that are really not relevant to the game, I think. Because
you're playing a game. That's the whole point, right? We don't want to sit down and have a, political diatribe at the game table.
No, you can have that too, but but we didn't want to do that in the game, basically. I mean, the game is about survival. It's a survival game. It's a post-apocalyptic survival game. Right. So it's more about the stories and what's happening to these characters under these circumstances, and trying to survive and trying to build something new, maybe finding a way back home. That's what the game is about. It's not about politics per se.
Right.
And that was kind of a way to get there, is to actually place it in an alternate history. And then also I think it's easier to retain that kind of old school Cold War type feel to the game if we do it in alternate history as well, than if we had set it in 2035 or something, because then it would have more had of a sci-fi feel to it. So it's also a question of capturing the spirit and the feel of the first edition of the original. So that's like the third reason, I guess, that we went in this direction.
I think it's very interesting how you had brought up the fact that games that are set kind of in a near future sort of setting, that those game worlds don't age well. And it's funny because even looking at Twilight 2000 in the year 2000, that game world had not aged well at all.
No. So, yeah. So, I mean, the setting we have now, it's an alternate history. It's a reworked, like you said, the kind of point of divergence is the 1991 Moscow coup. Mm-hmm. In real life, it failed, and Boris Yeltsin kind of was standing on the tank, and that was like the end, really the end of the Soviet Union. Yeah. For all intents and purposes. But in this version, Yeltsin was placed under house arrest, and the coup succeeded, which meant that the generals managed to maintain kind of power, and that changed the timeline from that point on. And then we have an alternate timeline for the 1990s up until the year 2000. So that's kind of how it looks. It's not the same timeline as was used in the 1984 edition of Twilight 2000. They're very different, but they end in the same kind of general situation.
As far as I understand, too, you're going to have two settings. You've got the traditional setting that was Poland back in the day, and you're also going to have Sweden, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's one of the things we wanted to do. I mean, the Poland setting is so iconic for Twilight 2000, and we really wanted to capture the first and maybe second edition feel, and we felt going back to the Poland setting made sense, and it's kind of that also goes back and capture the feel of the first edition. So we wanted to do that, but we also wanted to expand the game and make it more modular, which is pretty much in line with other games. And Mutant Year Zero is also a post-apocalyptic game that you can set pretty much anywhere. You can play in your hometown or anywhere.
Right.
We wanted to bring in that kind of a thinking to Twilight 2000 and make it possible to play the game and set the game pretty much anywhere in the world that you want. But to give some setting in the game to have something ready to play, we wanted to bring in Poland for obvious reasons, for sort of legacy reasons.
Sure.
But then we figured, let's show how you can play this game in different settings. So we provide a secondary setting, and it just kind of made sense since we're a Swedish company, and we felt it only fair. If we're going to create a game where we invade Poland, we should probably invade ourselves as well. So
sure.
Let's bring in Sweden also and do the same thing, just to present two possible settings, just two examples of how this game can be played. Then people can play in those settings, or they can adapt the game to play wherever they want.
Well, you're going to have the free city of Krakow. I remember that from the original. So what free city is going to be in Sweden?
Right. Yeah, actually, there is an idea there.
I figured.
Yeah. I mean, the free city, we probably, speaking of expansions, the plan is to actually follow those very iconic first, three maybe, or four expansions for the first edition. But we're not going to focus on one specific area exactly. We're going to do pretty much the same thing as for the general setting. So the first expansion is probably, the way it looks now, will be like a cities expansion about playing in larger cities, or what's left of them.
Sure.
And then Krakow will be one example of that. And we're going to have a Swedish example and maybe another one. But most of the expansion will be playing in cities in general, like encounter tables, all kinds of resources you can use to play in a city. But it could be any city or almost any city. We'll see what we end up with for the Swedish Krakow. We haven't quite landed that one yet, but we're working on it.
I'm pretty excited about this Kickstarter because I have a soft spot in my heart for Twilight 2000, and I'm glad to see that it's not going to utilize the original mechanics, because mechanically it was a pretty clunky system, but the background was great.
Yeah, I mean, I have a soft spot for the game as well, and that's probably why we're doing. I mean, a large portion of why we're doing this is a game it's close to my heart for a very long time. I played it. I really loved it back in the 80s. I played it some, but never as much as I actually wanted to.
Right.
So it's kind of been that game that I never got to play enough. I guess that's why, compensating for that now.
Sure.
So yeah. I mean, we actually, the whole idea started with us at Freely playing for fun. First edition Twilight 2000. We played a short campaign maybe 2 years ago, something like that. Just because we felt like it, because we had we all had kind of fuzzy feelings for the game, so we picked it up. And really, I mean, the setting is cool, and I think the rules have some merit. I think they're well built. They're kind of well done for the most part. But at least from my personal taste, they do get a bit too clunky. They are a bit unwieldy and to use. You kind of after a couple of sessions, at least this is my own personal taste. After the first few sessions were fine, but then everyone got a bit tired of the rules. Just how they really require a lot of work to use.
They kind of get in the way, is how I recall.
I mean that's kind of, even though I think they're well done, and I want to emphasize that they're a bit too heavy for my taste. But what we really wanted to do when we started thinking about a new edition is to kind of retain the feel of the rules. I mean, the stuff that's important in the first edition rules, the stuff like your gear, your vehicles, armor, all of that stuff needs to make sense. I mean, you have to, all of these things should matter. The kind of gear you have, your equipment, your armor, your vehicle, all this stuff, and also the resource management, like having enough fuel, food, all this has to be there and be a part of the experience, and it needs to feel realistic. It doesn't have to be super as detailed as it was in the original, but it needs to keep that realistic feel of all these elements. So that's really been what we've been trying to do, to keep that feel of the rules, but not the details of the rules.
And when is this Kickstarter going to hit, Tomas?
August. We haven't set the date yet, but August is the plan. So basically around the time, pretty much shortly after the Alien starter set lands, where this is going to Kickstarter is the plan.
Now, the final game I wanted to ask about, and I know this is another title that a lot of people are very excited about. A lot of folks who follow my show and my website are big fans of the Cubicle 7 Entertainment edition of the One Ring with the Lord of the Rings role-playing game. Now, Lord of the Rings role-playing is over at Free League, and that's something I'd like to talk a little bit about, because wasn't that originally scheduled for like a summer release? Am I correct, or am I way off?
No, I think that's right. That would, the Cubicle 7 version, I'm actually not sure when that was supposed to come out.
Oh, no, we know that's not. We know that got the plug pulled.
Yeah. So, all this stuff happened back, in the fall, late fall, early winter.
Yeah.
And when the license holder, called Sophisticated Games, and the designer Francesco Nepitello, who's the lead designer of the One Ring, they parted ways with Cubicle 7 for reasons that we had obviously nothing to do with.
Right, of course, right.
Their business. But that meant we knew Francesco from before. We had some contact with him. We met him at Essen, and we kind of found each other in game design, because we always felt that the One Ring is a game that kind of has a similar philosophy to game design as Free League games, and I think Francesco kind of felt the same way about us, so we kind of hit it off. And after they parted ways with Cubicle 7, Francesco actually approached us and just sort of asked if we'd be interested. And then by then it was just a one-off idea, but that got us talking, and then a fairly lengthy period of discussions and negotiations started. And in the end, that's what happened. So that's super exciting. Not something we had been. It came a bit out of the blue, but
right.
Really cool. And now we're kicking a team into gear. We're already started working on like the overall graphic design, the art, trying to because the game design, the actual writing is being done by Francesco still. He's still the lead designer of the game. So. He will still be in charge, so it's not going to be a Year Zero engine or anything like that. He's going to be the designer, so we're keeping that. I know he's making some changes from the game, the way it was supposed to be released by Cubicle 7, because when things changed, he wanted to make some changes as well. So we're redefining some things. It's not going to be the same. It's not the same game that Cubicle 7 was going to release.
Okay.
It's going to be. It's going to look different. We're going to have our own graphic design, art, stuff like that. So it's not exactly the same game. And that, because when we took it over, we had to kind of dig into it properly and envision it to some extent. And that's also why it's not coming out in the summer as maybe it was planned to do. But we're looking at sometime pretty early next year.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was funny because when the licensee moved on from Cubicle 7, a lot of people were like, in fact, I'm pals with the folks over at Cubicle 7, Dom and TS and the rest of the gang. And I was like, and then when it was announced that Free League was going to work with Francesco, everybody was like, okay, it's Free League at least. Okay, good. Free League's got it. Because a lot of people were worried, that was going to be the end for a few years of seeing any Lord of the Rings role-playing products come out.
Yeah.
And of course, then it was announced, well, Free League's going to run with it. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, okay, good. It's in good hands.
Yeah, I mean that's it's great. It's a lot of fun to work with Francesco, and it's obviously a great license to work with. So we're all very excited. I mean, everyone in Free League is kind of super excited about this whole thing. So it's we're probably going to be able to share more details, news pretty soon.
Okay.
But yeah, so just we'll see. In the next few weeks and months, we'll definitely be able to show some stuff from the new game.
And let's kind of come full circle, because I believe there is a fantasy role-playing game that I think you're just releasing. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. Is it Vasan or something along those lines?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. It's Vezan, really. But,
there you go.
That's. You're right. It's a gothic horror game, really. So it's a game about it's about Nordic kind of folklore and myths, but really think of it as kind of a Sherlock Holmes type thing, or you're these investigators solving mysteries that are involving these beings, these creatures, these Vezan. Vezan means just a creature, these creatures of folklore. So it's very much like mystery solving. It's kind of a Call of Cthulhu type game, but instead of Cthulhu mythos, it's got these strange creatures from Nordic folklore instead. So we're doing that. That's coming out. It's actually being printed right now, so it should arrive. It's also releasing in August, so a lot of stuff happening in August.
So is that in a modern setting?
No, it's actually like mid-19th century. We call it the Mythic North. So it's kind of, and not a historically correct version of the 19th century, but more of a fairy tale version of that, kind of a Sherlock Holmes version of the 19th century.
Nice. Very cool. Tomas, any last thoughts? Any projects maybe we haven't touched on that you'd like to share with the audience?
Oh, I don't know. I think we covered most of them, and then we have a couple of things that I can't quite bring up yet.
Sure.
But no, I think we covered pretty much everything.
So I've got one last question for you then. So let's take a look at, let's say, 2 years ago at Free League and compare it to today. How shocked are you at all the licenses and products that Free League has now?
Yeah, that's the last couple of years have been amazing, but it's great. I mean, we're still working. I mean, we're a few more people now, but we're still the same core crew doing this, and it's just it's been phenomenal. And just meeting people at conventions. I hope we can do that sometimes fairly soon again. But just feeling that, like last year at Gen Con, just feeling the love. And people coming out to our booth and just having discovered us and our games for the first time maybe, and then that's just fantastic. So it's been a phenomenal couple of years.
Fantastic. Tomas, thank you so much for taking some time out today to share all the gaming goodness that's out and on the horizon from Free League Publishing.
Thank you.
All right. Once again, a big thank you to Tomas from Free League Publishing for spending about a half hour with me this morning and talking about pretty much everything that's on the horizon from Free League Publishing. So if you can actually maybe see behind my head, I've got some Free League stuff right there. Got the Tales from the Loop, Things from the Flood. So lots and lots for us to keep our eyes peeled for. And of course, once some news becomes available, I will have that out there for you as well. I usually do carry a lot of the Free League Publishing news also. So the Madman is popped into chat. Good to see you. Yes, well, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed the interview. It was it was very strange because earlier on, before I got started this morning, once again, having an issue with the camera and OBS Studio, and I just went and just deleted some drivers and reinstalled some drivers, and I think that might have fixed it. So if you could tell, I kind of was very sniffly. I shouldn't say if you could tell. It's obvious. You can hear me. So, yeah, it was, my sinuses were kind of clogged up this morning during the interview. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And we should get an opportunity to see the Tales from the Loop starter set shortly. Tomas wasn't positive if it was already shipped out or what, but I know that is on the horizon as well. So that's it for tonight's show. I am going to be off until Tuesday because Monday is Memorial Day and I don't do episodes on Fridays any longer. Glenn Darren's popping in. Glad you enjoyed the interview, Glenn. Thank you. And Ibram is someone new in chat, I do believe. I don't believe we've had Ibram in chat with us, so welcome aboard. But as I was going to say, I will be off until Tuesday. What I am kind of bouncing around as far as episode 500, because that is only 10 episodes away, I'm kind of bouncing around the idea of maybe doing a behind-the-scenes look at the Duct Tape Studios. Boy. Oh, yeah, that'll just kind of completely blow up the illusion. And doing a Q&A. So I don't know if people would be interested about, asking my thoughts on particular games or gaming concepts or, what have you, how I got into this or anything like that. But I was kind of bouncing around. Maybe that's what we'll do for episode 500 of the Daily Dope. We'll find out. As you can see, I'm still playing around with the audio, trying to get the right mix. The signal just seems really hot for some reason. That's why you kind of get the plosives and things like that. So I've been kind of playing around with the equipment here because it's all brand new to me. I mean, I had a preamp before. I didn't have all this other stuff. So Flaming Heron's popping in. So Flaming Heron says that they were just trolling while doing stuff on the side. I don't know. Trolling to me is something different. So, I mean, just lurking is what I kind of think. So, but Flaming Heron says that sounds like maybe a good idea for episode 500. Anyway, we got a few minutes. Seeing I got the next 4 days off, right? Got some goodies. We got Everdell Spire Crest, as well as Belfair arrived today. So we've got the two latest expansions for Everdell, which I really, really love. I really do like that. So, yes, Flaming Heron says, yes, lurking, not trolling. But so we've got those. I will actually have videos this weekend. So I was actually going to do some today. I have some shot, but I don't have the entire video shot because I'm still messing around with one of the capture devices, I should say. Not sure if it's working right or not. So, because I prefer to just be able to sit down, look at the Panasonic, do my thing, switch over to the overhead Sony, do my thing with that, and then back to the Panasonic, as opposed to having to record things in pieces and then have to stitch them together. I'm not necessarily a big fan of that. So, but I'm sure the videos would be better if I did that, but what can I say? All right. Do want to point out that if you like the video, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And of course, if you do, don't forget, ring that notification bell because it will not only notify you when the Daily Dope streams live, Monday through Thursdays, right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload standalone videos as well. As I mentioned, there should be some this weekend also. So Glenn Darren says, yeah, they're all for the episode 500 idea. Well, I'll tell you what, I tell you, people laugh when they see what it really looks like. So, but I figure why not, pull back the veil. Because I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, I'd love to do this. But, I don't have like all this, a bunch of room and all this other stuff. And it's like, Come on, just jump on in. It's not rocket surgery, as I say all the time. Just start small, and then hopefully you could add some decent cameras and get some audio stuff. And you never know, never know. Anyway, those of you who hung out to watch the interview live tonight, thank you very much. Really, really do appreciate it. I wasn't expecting really anybody to be hanging out, because I've noticed when I do interviews, when I share interviews on the episode, that's usually kind of the whole episode. And I think people kind of see that ahead of time. They're like, yeah, I'll catch that later. So Fleming Heron says, yeah, I've seen a lot of people do walkthroughs of their setups, and it's so clean and pristine because it's basically empty. Well, clean and pristine, I would not go over here, because it's like stuff all over the place. There's always things all over the place. Hopefully over the weekend, I'll get to kind of rewire the way things are set up here, because I've been playing around a little bit with that. But no, clean and pristine, yeah, that won't be it. All right. So anyway, those of you, as I mentioned, who are watching the interview live, thank you very much. And of course, if you watch after the fact, maybe even on Memorex, I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for you folks as well. In fact, I appreciate anybody taking time out to watch me just pontificate in front of the camera on a semi-nightly basis. All right. Anyway, as I mentioned, I will be back on Tuesday. Everybody here in the U.S., enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Still be careful out there. I know there are a lot of people who are thinking, well, these states are opening back up. And even myself, I went out to the grocery store today, and I was very, very surprised to see how many people were just out and about without masks. Got to be smart. Got to be smart, folks. That's just, do what you want. I'm not here to, tell you how to live your life. But you should try to be smart. So anyway, everybody enjoy the rest of your Thursday night / Friday morning. I will be back on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. And of course, as I've been saying, pretty much every show during this pandemic, be smart and stay safe. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. And of course, if you want to catch up on past episodes of The Daily Dope, check out this playlist. And if you'd like to see what YouTube's recommending you take a peek at from the channel, just give a click right over here. Of course, I'm Jeff McAleer, and once again, thank you very much for watching.